Hello everybody, Andy here from Glass Half Dead, the only Kill Team channel on YouTube. Unless, of course, you are aware of any other Kill Team channel on YouTube, in which case kind of ignore what I just said, doesn't matter. So today I'm going to do a tier list. I'm going to quickly break down what a tier list is for you, so that you know what to expect in this video. This video might end up being relatively long, even though tier lists are supposed to kind of summarize information. What is a tier list? A tier list is a topic of conversation. It's a discussion starter. You should never take a tier list as being particularly factual. Even the best players out there are incredibly biased about certain things. So, with that said, I have come up with the most objective tier list possible. AKA, I've laid out stats differently for you, okay? That's all this is, and then I'm going to talk about why everything is where it is, what the stats show us, etc. There are several different ways to produce a tier list. You can go on vibes. That's what most tier lists are. You can go on vibes heavily based on your own personal bias and your own experiences, your own anecdotes. That's awesome. You can go on vibes based on this is how an average player will play this team, and so therefore the average player should expect this team to perform like S tier, A tier, etc. Or you can have a tier list that focuses on the top 0.001%, the absolute maximum potential of a team. And then those two tier lists are going to look very different. The tier list I have opted to do is a stats-based tier list. So if you're doing a vibes-based tier list, you can do it at any time. Even like as soon as a team comes out, you could just say, I think this team is S tier. Done. Doesn't matter. I have instead gone for doing this tier list right at the end of our this balance patch, so that everything is objectively correct. Argue what you will about this tier list, it is actually just the win rate of all the teams. So let me shrinkify myself and I'm going to show you the tier list. This is the win rate of all the teams currently in the game. We are then going to look at some other things. We're going to look at what the S tier, the A tier actually mean, but that's just an addendum. And then we're also going to look at popularity. That's what this final one is. Finally, what is a tier list? Just so you're fully aware before we get into this and you settle down for a big old podcast of stuff. The purpose of a tier list is great for beginner players to get a lot of information about the game all in one video. That is the actual purpose for me for a tier list. If you're a new player, you should be able to sit down, watch this video, and come away knowing actually quite a lot about the current meta and quite a few of these teams after this video. If you are but a casual observer of the Kill Team meta, this can be a bit of an update for you and you can reconfigure how you thought based on the latest balance patch, which is what this tier list is. And of course, if you're a balls deep in the tournament scene, you don't watch me, so there's no need for me to address you. You will watch other people. Of course, I would recommend if you're after that deep competitive content. I'm a fan of Command Point personally. We type in Command Point Kill Team. They do some really good stuff. I'm looking forward to their next tier list. Again, they do vibes-based tier lists. This is an objective fact tier list. Let's start very quickly with what we see here. Okay. Also, final thing before we crack on, I expect you to watch this as a podcast. You don't need to watch, look at the screen once so you can see what's on that tier list. I've posted this in my Discord, etc., so you can just download it if you want, if you want to see that yourself. I'm going to read out every single of all of the 38 factions. You don't need to look at the screen again, put me on in the background, walk away, do something else. Okay, right, with that said, as you can tell, minor annoyance for the Goremongers and the Sanctifiers on here. They are the two factions that aren't labelled because GW has changed the format of how they put things into the app, on Warcom. So, is what it is. It comes to nobody's surprise that the Sanctifiers are in the S plus tier and the Goremongers are the other one that are not the Sanctifiers. Cool. Okay, with that said, let's take a look at all of the win rates. I'm going to go over these win rates. I'm going to tell you what puts them into this objectively correct, objective fact tier list. And then once we get to the games played, the popularity, I'm going to then flip back to this and talk about every single team. Now, obviously, the talking about every single team is going to be where things get a little bit less than objective fact, a little bit more biasy, but that's fine. Of course, also, before we get into this, how many before we get into this things am I going to do? I don't know. I would like to give everybody that's watching right now, everyone that is a subscriber to the channel, a big double hello. Wow, so wholesome. Wholesomeness truly knows no bounds in the world of Glass Half Dead. What is a double hello? Well, it's a pleasantry that's given to you twice, and who wouldn't want a pleasantry given to you twice if it is truly pleasant? And that is for subscribers only. If you stay till the end, there might be a triple hello. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, let's crack on, shall we? So, you see the tier list here. Great. Have a quick look at it. That is all you need to look at that. Don't worry. What makes something S+ versus S tier? What makes something A tier versus B tier? Let me show you. You see it now. We go to the next slide. Boom. 60% plus win rate is S+ tier. 60 to 55 is your B tier, or your A tier, sorry. 55 to 50 is your B. 50 to 45 is your C. 45 to 40 is your C. Yeah, see? 40 to 35 is your D, and 30% or less win rate is your F tier. That's right. It's so bad we skip multiple letters. Or at least one letter. Not very good with the alphabet, to be honest with you. Okay. You see that? Now everything makes sense. I know what you're thinking. You're actually telling me, Andy, Andiferous, Kassakin and Hunterclade have a less than a 30% win rate? Yeah. That's why we had to go so low down. I felt like I couldn't put them in the same tier as the 40 to 35% win rate. And let me be really clear, D tier and F tier shouldn't exist. I want to be really, really clear on that. All of those teams need help. 100%. D tier and F tier, that's below a 40% win rate. To be clear, the only thing on the positive side that has above a 60% win rate is one team, and honestly I'm pretty sure that's only because people don't know how to deal with sanctifiers yet. Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, those 7 teams, that is an outrageous win rate. And genuinely, I don't care about the sanctifiers, I care about those 7 teams, how bad the game is for them. Let's keep going. We're then, don't worry, I will come back and cover every team and why they are where they are. I do want to be clear about that. Then I want to show you, because I think this always interests me. This is games played. So this is obviously a good way to view popularity of each team within Kill Team. We would love to know kind of like casual stats, but ultimately tournaments are made up of a lot of casual players. However, Kill Team isn't a huge data set, like 40k might be. So the number of players that are going to take the not most popular faction of themselves over a I want to win the tournament faction is slightly higher than what kind of the average player might do, but this does exist, so that's interesting. Of course, there is the I'm sure you use it, I know you do, there's KT3 Battle Kit. Go check that out. Kill Team Battle Kit. That's what I always use. I literally don't use the Kill Team app. I use Battle Kit. It's a great way to have all the rules online, and it has a score tracker, and you can track all of your games. The reason I mention that is because the guy that runs it, lovely young man called Alberto, actually, because it can be used outside of a tournament setting, just people tracking their games, he has his own set of stats for just like page hits. So this gives us tournament popularity. Battle Kit gives us people that are using Battle Kit popularity, so it's just really nice to have additional stats that aren't deeply tied to tournaments. Okay, right, with that said, it comes to no surprise that Angels of Death, Nemclaw and Plague Marines are S+ tier. Those are your 3 most played teams. Cool. We then have Wrecker Crew, Phobos, Legionary, Felgor. Now, it makes, again, no surprise that all of the elite teams are in the first 2 tiers. Except for Warp Coven, because they don't count. I'll get to them, don't worry. The thing that actually really shocks me here, all of these make sense, right? Everyone loves orcs, everyone loves elites, everyone loves marines. That's all the first 2 tiers are. But then Felgor? That's a mad one. And it's going to be really interesting when we go back to the win rates as opposed to the popularity, the pick rates, to see where are Felgor. Are they being picked a lot because they're really, really popular? Because I'll tell you this much, they were not popular in the last edition. They had a very low pick rate, but a very high win rate. How are they performing now? Then in the A tier, we get basically all the elves, which is really weird. Void Dancers, Hand of the Archon, Corsair, Mandrakes, and then Commandos. Purely from a popularity perspective, don't know why I had to say it in such a way, but Commandos, Orcs, yeah, makes total sense. And the fact that the newest Orc team, who are also fewer models and therefore probably easier to play, are above the Orcs, that makes total sense. But yeah, I'm just actually shocked that it's just Marines, Eldar. That is the actual most picked tier list, most popular tier list. Really interesting. I think this is, if I'm honest, I think this is quite heavily skewed by the fact that all of the elves right now are really good. They are gate kept, apart from Void Dancers, they are gate kept pretty hard by the Marine teams. So if the Marine teams take a nerf, expect that A tier to go straight to the S tier. But again, this is popularity. So I'm saying that the popularity of the Eldar teams is in large part because they're not Marines, but they're still very strong. I don't believe that Hand of the Archon are actually a popular team. That's all I'm saying. And then below that, B, C, D, we get just nothing, right? Like just, it's a whole mixture of things. There's no, you can't really look at something and say, oh yeah, it makes sense that that's there over something else. Obviously, again, we should point out that the Goremongers of the Goremongers and the Sanctifiers, the only reason they are so low at the moment is because they've only just released, really. They've only been out, what, is it 3 weeks? They've only been out 3 weeks? 2 weeks? 3 weeks max. That's why they are so low down, because they've only just released. Which is, you know, really shows just how popular that Wrecker crew is, when that is also one of the newer teams. Oh, actually, scratch that. This data set is based on the latest balance patch, so forget that. Cool. But, you know, hey, whenever I look at a tier list, I want to know what is the biggest counter pick I can take. That is Hunterclade, Pathfinders, Imperial Navy Breaches, and then Gellerpox Infected. I will quickly say about the Gellerpox, you cannot buy that team anymore. There is no way to pick up that team unless you find it on the shelf, in which case it's an old pack. From what we can tell, they have no plans to reprint it, so I will not be discussing Gellerpox, because although yes, we see they are a relatively low pick rate team, maybe because you can't buy the team, am I right? I feel it's quite unfair to discuss a team that can't be played or can't be purchased. There you go. Okay, with that said, let's get back to our real tier list. Boom, S plus Sanctifiers. What can be said about the Sanctifiers? 13.5 minutes in, and we've done the popularity, we're getting to the win rates. The true S plus. Keeping it, okay, so we have to say Sanctifiers, they haven't been played that much. Everything else here has 3 months of data. Sanctifiers of the Goremongers have 3 weeks of data. That is a factor. However, it's generally very well assumed that Sanctifiers are probably going to be a little bit OP, probably need an emergency balance patch. They have so much going for them that it's really, really hard to, like, say what, like, to think of how they work after a nerf. With many teams, you can look at them and say, okay, well, what's holding them back are elite teams. What's holding them back are horde teams. Nobody's ever said that, but it's hypothetically possible, right? Sanctifiers, I don't even know what you do. Basically, the real shenanigans these guys have is their movement, which is what it is. If you're within 6 inches of the Confessor, of the Sermon, you can do just some crazy movement shenanigans, which I totally understand how the team could be thinking, yeah, let's give them movement shenanigans. But, man, I don't know. I don't want to say they weren't play tested, obviously, but it really feels like, from what we're seeing other people say, and I will stress that I have not played as or against Sanctifiers at the moment, because why would I? They sound like just bad to play into, and I'd rather have a fun game than a bad game. There's a lot going on with them. They're not going to be up there for too long, in my opinion, in my esteemed opinion, because if they truly are so bad, then GW will nerf them emergency patch style, so it's fine. But they are distinctly S+ tier. For a while, I had S+ tier and S tier together, but the Sanctifiers are only just in that next tier up. So I thought, no, let's pull it out so that we can have a little bit of a chat. Now, again, I'm going to stress, because as the voice of reason, don't get too worked up about Sanctifiers. Yes, they're tough. Yes, they feel sucky to play into. But as such a brand new team, I would not take their over 60% win rate as being factual. We have to wait for more people to play the game with them, both the higher skill players and the lower skill players. Cool. All right. For example, all the people that are in this game, which is, again, the majority of players, because they're into the cool hobby, they haven't finished their Sanctifier teams yet. They haven't gone to a tournament yet. Okay? Right. So then we look at what I would almost say discount the S+ tier for this. Okay? Because that's going to change because there hasn't been enough data. We then get to the S tier, the Warp Coven, the Chaos Cult, the Brood Brothers. Now, I will say that for me, the Warp Coven being there makes total sense. It almost feels like... I know I'm doing this for new players, and so I will explain everything. But if you've been around for a while, you know that this one needs no explanation. So, it's an elite team that can flex into a mid team if you want. So, could be 6 models, normally it's run as 8, sometimes 10. But at the moment, I'm mainly seeing 8. The reason for this is that it's one of the few teams with real list building. So you could take Sorcerers, you could take Rubric Marines, and you could take Zangors. What you would normally do is max out your 3 Sorcerers, take some Gunners, and then take 2 Zangors. So this means that you are able to out-activate other elite teams, which is good for you. But you still have Marines, so you're still very, very dominant. All Marine teams, Warp Coven especially, just have naturally good stats. There you go. That's how elite teams work. They are strong on the datasheet. That 14 wound breakpoint is so good. Additionally to that, Warp Coven are the kings of shenanigans. The shenanigan sluts, if you will. I shouldn't have said that, but I'm not editing this, so there you go. The problem here is that when a team is so good on their raw stats on the datasheet, and they have a shenanigans, of course they're going to be too good. It just is how it is. And additionally, they are able to flex into different ways of playing against different teams. So if they have a team that they perhaps have a worse matchup to, if they were a 6 model team, they can go 8, they can go 10. They can change fundamentally how they play. You still have the hard hitters to go where you need to go and deal with things, and they have those shenanigans. But then you also have your more disposable units to run around the board, get cray. Just to very quickly highlight some of the shenanigans, you have some of the strongest movement shenanigans in the game, not just for an elite team, in the game. And you have heals, and you have, I think, I might regret saying this, but I believe you are the only elite team that ever gets access to full Relentless. Why on earth would you give an elite team full Relentless, guys? Come on. That is way too strong, but fine, whatever. Maybe they nerfed that, I can't remember these days. But they certainly released with full Relentless. It should clearly be dropped down to Ceaseless, at best. Anyway, we then get to the Chaos Cult. So the Chaos Cult they recently had a buff, so them being up in S tier, I suppose makes sense. They were very low down, they got a buff. The way this team works is you have a lot of bodies on the board, and you can make some of your bodies quite strong, and you also have some shenanigans to play around with. You can push through mortal wounds with your Psyker. and you can do a buff debuff aura. You have a really nasty torrent weapon at your disposal, and with your blessed blades you have your double activations, which is just outrageous. But your double interweaving, interlocking, docking, if you will, activations from the Chaos Cult there. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they're up there. There you go. I think that somebody that knows how to play Chaos Cult knows how to and when to push somebody forwards to a mutant, to an accursed. Yeah, going to be really difficult for certain teams to deal with. There you go. And you have enough bodies that you can handle elites, I suppose. I will say, just, you know, my own bias, I'm kind of surprised that AOD aren't gatekeeping them a lot harder, but I guess they're not. There you go. They just aren't, apparently, so it's fine. Brew Brothers. Now, we recently had Brew Brothers win come first in the biggest tournament in Spain so far, I believe of the edition, but definitely of the year. 70 plus players, I think, 71 to be precise. And it was won by Brood Brothers. Now, I actually can't say. Hopefully the man himself, Lazarus, can say what he was actually running. I assume he was running Magus. That is what everybody agreed was the best way to run Brood Brothers in this edition. You run the Magus because then none of your guys ever suffer from injured, which is really good. And you get it involved, but who cares about the involved really in that team? There you go. So you're always running the Magus. I have played Brood Brothers, but not into elites, and therefore I struggle to understand how they were as good as they were. I don't think it's a bad team, but to me, if I were to rate them, I would put them solidly B tier, like solid middle of the road pack. They didn't stand out to me, so it would be really interesting to hear from the people that really know them. At the very least, what of the main operatives, the agents, whatever they're called, you're actually running. I assume it's still the Magus, but maybe not, and maybe there is like, oh well, actually if you go into elites, you run this because then you've got this, and that's really good. But then everybody else, you run the Magus, something like that. Which brings us to the A tier. Right, Wormblade. So this is where I get to play my privilege, my Kill Team Content Creator privilege card. I haven't played Wormblade, as or against them this edition. I barely know what they do. There you go. I can't really say anything particularly intelligent about them. I have read the rules. I know that they still function kind of the same as they used to. They have access to some heavy weapons, which are going to go well into taking out some elites. Your agents are still remarkably durable, at least when it comes to shooting. You still have your aura charge, interrupt charge on your Quicksilver, Quickblade, whatever he's called, Silverblade, can't recall. But you are still, from what I can tell, always taking your Kelemorph, which makes sense because he's like the best model. So there you go. Legionaries, a team I do know. Lucky. Legionaries, gosh. It doesn't surprise me that Legionaries are still up in A tier, although if I'm honest, I'm actually surprised they're not higher. I'm going to say exactly the same for Nemclaw. I have a personal bias against Marine Elite teams, to be clear. I think they're really, really strong, and I think they're really, really good. There you go. So Legionaries just have access to way too much, in my opinion. They're very fun and thematic and flavorful. However, basically the Chosen just shouldn't have access, or the Champion, whatever he's called, just shouldn't have access to a self-heal. I think take that out and the team's probably fine after that. I wouldn't change much else about them. They've really nerfed them enough. Remove the leader heal. Job done. Good team. But yeah, strong team. Strong team. We then get to the Corsairs. So I played into the Corsairs. I remember it well. Because I said, oh, the Corsairs, they're quite good at the moment, aren't they? And the guy said, nah, pretty weak team, actually. And then he beat me. In fairness, I was playing Vespid, so, you know. But yeah. There you go. Corsairs, really good. The only team out there that currently has access to just a scratch that can also block a crit, not just a normal, which is, you know, pretty intense. Probably shouldn't have that. Should probably nerf that. Cool. Aside from that, just a very good team that has lots of flex, and I suspect performing very well at the top end because they have access to a toolbox team. So you are able, if you are able to put the correct model in the correct place to do the correct thing, you are very strong. But at the low to mid tables, everyone has a power weapon. You're still doing like 12 damage if you charge someone. You're doing just fine. That's a really good thing to do. You might get pipped to the post by actual elites, especially a good elites player, but otherwise, Corsairs, naturally good. Like, you should probably be relatively high scoring, even at mid tables, with Corsairs. And being pseudo APL 3 and having light fingers, right? Yeah, real tricksy team. It doesn't surprise me at all that they are up in A tier. I would suspect that if the Marines weren't currently dominating as much as they were, they should be S tier. We get to the Felgor. The Felgor, yeah. Oh, a team that doesn't die? Oh, wow. Who would have guessed that they're good? That's strange, isn't it? Felgor are a very strong team, obviously. They have access to the Frenzy Rule. That is, of course, stops them from dying when they die and it's their turn. No, hold on. When they die and it's not their turn, they don't die and they hang around. That's it. Fine. You know, GW obviously wants that to be their thing. I don't like it primarily because it forces them to play in a very strange manner. The most effective way to run Felgor is to charge, which makes sense, but then not fight. Because you want to die during the enemy's activation. You want to die outside of your activation, because then you don't get removed from the table. I guess that's it's a bit of a thematic L that they've taken on that one. However, this is a really strong team, and if they nerf Marines, Felgor are going to skyrocket. Really, really good team. Absolutely decimates players across the skill level gaps. So low, medium, high, they are very strong. They probably need a nerf. Probably from the win rates they don't, because I think you don't need to nerf A, B, and C tier technically. But yeah, I would probably say if they have some of the currently high performing factions removed, they are going to absolutely dominate. They're a very, very strong team. We then get to Nemclaw. I'm not going to dwell too much. It's another elite Marine team. I like elite Marine teams. I was saying I like playing them. I understand why they're strong. Nemesis Claw is a very fun team to play. Getting to always be obscured is fun. Getting 3 APL is fun. Being very good in melee in different ways with everybody is fun. If I had to critique them, the only thing I don't like is the poison. I don't like, is it the Fearmonger? Maybe. The Poison Boy. Being able to poison an objective isn't fun. There you go. That's all I'll say on that. I think poisoning the objective is fine if you're playing another elite team, because then it's a choice you can make. But poisoning the objective just feels crappy for the medium teams, the most numerous number of teams. Horde teams normally have a model they can throw away. That's fine. But yeah, the medium teams, they kind of suffer because of that quite heavily. They don't want to just throw a model away, but that is what the Nemclaw poison objective does. And you can always poison that middle objective guaranteed. So it's very swingy, especially on certain crit ops where you kind of need to not ignore the crit op. We then get to the Phobos. Phobos are a great team. I like Phobos. They are, to my mind, the only true elite shooting team. I know that people are going to say that AOD can be run shooty. I don't like AOD shooty, so there you go. I think if you're not playing AOD melee, you're doing it wrong. Phobos are a great shooty team. I like them. I don't have much else to say. I think they're probably how elite teams should be. Them being 12 wounds means that playing into them also doesn't feel nearly as bad as playing into the other teams. So hey, if you're a beginner out there and you're really struggling playing into elite teams, try playing into Phobos. They might still dominate you because, as you can tell, they're still winning pretty well. They're still in that A tier. They're still above 55% win rate, but that's pretty good. Like, it just feels so much more winnable when they're 12 wounds. And there are some teams that, due to being 12 wounds instead of 14 wounds, can just absolutely wreck Phobos. For example, Mandrakes struggle into all elite teams apart from Phobos, where they basically have a free win. You know, just that there shows you the point. Point, is that the right word? Nope, I've lost what the word I'm looking for. But the point break, number break, damage break, whatever it's called. There you go. Void Dancers. The only thing I'm surprised about with Void Dancers is that they're so low in the A tier. Void Dancers are really good. I have to assume that Void Dancers are so low in the A tier because elites are so prevalent. If you look at, if we quickly go back actually to, not that one, to this, again we have nothing but elites in the top 2 tiers, which means that they are right there. And then right below it, right, we have Felgor. So we have all elites, and then we have Felgor and Void Dancers, one after the other. Those 2 teams, much just as I said with Felgor, are going to skyrocket if they nerf elites. Void Dancers are very, very strong, and the only thing stopping them from being S+ tier is genuinely elites. Even elites really struggle into them. If you don't know what you're doing as an elite player into Void Dancers, you're probably going to lose the first time. Let's be clear. Until you figure out what they do, because they are a very hard-hitting team with shenanigans. But there you go. Star Striders, I don't know what they do. There you go. Haven't played as or against them this edition. Not going to overly talk about them because I don't know what's up. The only thing I would threaten you with is not a good time. But much like with Galapox Infected, Star Striders do not have a kill team kit. They have a generic 40k kit, but whereas every other box got upgraded to the new edition, Star Striders and Galapox did not. Except Galapox don't have a kit anywhere else. Star Striders have a 40k kit, but you won't get any tokens for them. Keep that in mind. We then get to the B tier, Plague Marines. I am so surprised to see Plague Marines this far down. The fact that Plague Marines aren't A tier really confuses me. They are a very strong team. I don't know what they're doing in B tier. They must be like just inside the 55% win rate bracket. They must be like 55.1 or something. I don't know. Very strong team. Obviously, the reason that they and AOD, which we will talk about in a moment, who are even lower than them, are not higher up, I would have to say is because they are some of the most played teams. As we know, if we go back to the played teams, it's AOD, Nemclaw, Plague Marines, which actually probably just goes to show how strong the Nemclaw are. But the Plague Marines and the AOD are quite far down in the win rates, and that's because they are your starter teams. So you're going to have a lot of people go to tournaments with the starter teams and their Marine teams. So they're like the most popular naturally anyway. There you go. So strong team, held back by its player base from its win rate potential. But if you look at the number of podiums won, so first, second, thirds, Plague Marines are super high. They're like the second faction. Oh, hey, that's another way you can view win rates. Instead of doing win rates, I could have done podiums. In which case, but that gets muddied up. Because the more popular a faction is, just statistically, the more chance it has of winning, right? So AOD is the number one, but that's because AOD is also the most played team, right? So it's like, well, is that? I mean, yes, it means they're capable of winning, but actually, is it just pure law of averages, 50-50, and they somehow managed to get through 50-50? Okay, that's why they have the most podiums. Anyway, Wrecker Crew. So Wrecker Crew are an interesting one. They're a very strong team, with the only thing holding them back from being much higher up in the win rates being that they're an elite team, and they become APL 3, which they need to be when they attack. So they attack and they gain an APL. We have an entire kill zone based on not attacking and having to use your APL to do something first. So basically, Wrecker Crew get wrecked on Gallowfall. They basically become an APL 2 team for 2 turns, and that means they can't play the game. there you go. So the way I would view them, I think their win rate, I think they should actually be like absolute top. Oh, we're on the wrong one, aren't we? Absolute top of A tier or kind of bottom of S tier. However, if you imagine on Volcus, if they have what I imagine, they have that 60% win rate chance, like really, really strong, that should put them into S plus or S tier. But then on Into the Dark, on Gallowfall, it probably drops to like 40% win rate, so like C or D tier. And then that averages out with them being B tier. But they're not truly B tier, they're B tier depending on where you face them. If you face them on Volcus, they're S tier. If you face them on Gallowfall, they're D tier. So it's a really weird way to look at them. This is where a win rate tier list doesn't really show you kind of like how strong a team actually is. And it would be better to put them on a vibes tier list. I would put them higher because that's their potential is S tier. But if you face them on Volcus, on Gallowfall, you're fine, you win, right? We then get Blades of Cain. Blades of Cain, they're not a popular team. Let me check where they are. They're a B tier. Okay, they're a mid tier. They're a B tier team for pick rate, and they're a B tier team for win rate. Okay, I guess they're perfectly balanced in that case. So the Blades of Cain are an interesting elite team that for a long time people said are really bad, not very good. Until somebody went and won like LVO with them, or almost came second at LVO, and everybody said, oh, they're kind of good actually, aren't they? They're like really good, in fact. So now everybody agrees that they're really good. They are an elite team. They are actually the team I've played the most this edition. Very quickly, let me break them down for you, since I can actually say something about the Blades of Cain here. The Blades of Cain are a tough team to master. If you're a beginner, let me give you the lowdown. They are not a melee team. They are a ranged team. You should be using your shooting at all times. But they're not a shooting team, to be clear. Don't go Dire Avengers. That's a meme. Don't run Dire Avengers. You run your Scorpions. You run 3 Scorpions, one of them being your Exarch. You run 3 Banshees, and you run 2 Dire Avengers. Okay. Dire Avengers are there to keep people honest. Everybody else are ranged with a strong melee threat. That's how you play this team. They are not a team that you can charge in and just win, okay? You have to actually play very sneakily with them, but once you realize that they are a ranged team with a melee threat, as opposed to a melee team that happen to have pistols, the way this team plays will absolutely turn around for you. Once again, I do believe they are being held back by Marine teams. You have to play so sneakily into the Marine teams to win with Blades of Cain. But once you figure them out, you can beat elite teams. Not all of them, and not on Gallowfall. That is another issue. You will struggle additionally hard on Gallowfall. Although in fairness, I haven't played Blades of Cain on Gallowfall since they nerfed the guard action a little bit, so that would play slightly differently now. And I only ever played Angels of Death on Gallowfall, who have an additional ability thanks to Wrath of Vengeance, which actually makes them even better. Possibly the best team on Gallowfall, not sure, but yeah, there you go. Blades of Cain, good strong team. Once you realize that they are a ranged team with a melee threat, as opposed to a melee team that happen to have pistols, this team can become very capable for you. Hand of the Archon, I've played into them a few times. They're an interesting team. Again, I think they're gate kept pretty hard by Marine teams. The whole point of the Hand of the Archon is that you have abilities that get you like multiple crits in combat. So that although you have a blaster and a dark lance if you need, what you're actually going to do is charge and fight. You're very killy into kind of your 8 wound 10 man teams, and that's where you and your Eldar 8 wound teams. That's where you really excel, but you kind of lack what you need to go hard into elites, or at least be able to, you know, again, hey, a good player playing Hand of the Archon will be able to beat a bad to mid player playing elites, I'm sure. I'm not saying that can't be done, of course. but they really shine when they're going into like an 8 wound team with only 10 models. That's where Hand of the Archon just absolutely rips them apart. And of course, you need to be getting injured, you need to be getting kills to get your pain tokens. And there are just less models that you can do that against when it comes to elite teams. It's just how they're going to be. There you go. Inquisitorial Agents. So this is one of the teams I actually haven't played as or against this edition, so I can't say too much. It's a team that was definitely highlighted right at the start of the edition as being very, very strong. And you only ever played Kassakin with them, and that was an issue. Then they took a bunch of nerfs, and my understanding is, and don't quote me on this, that you still just run Kassakin with them. If you want to play Kassakin, as we can see them down there on F tier, you play them with Inquisitorial Agents, because they're still the best, because you still get that 3-up save. There you go. Kassakin with Inquisitorial Agents is the way to go. There might be a way to play, what are they called? The Exaction Squad with the Inquisitorial Agents. That might be a play now after their various nerfs, I'm not sure. But basically Kassakin is still the way to go, is my understanding. You should not be playing pure Inquisitorial Agents. You do take one of the auxiliary detachments with them. I think the only shame is that they haven't actually buffed up their unique auxiliary detachments, the Scions and the Sisters of Silence. I thought that would have been a nice little touch, I feel. Cool. Yellowpox Infected, again, I'm not going to talk about them because it's a kit you cannot buy. And I think it would be unfair for me to highlight like the positives of a kit that that people can't play. Although I do fully recommend that if you love them but you can't get hold of them, they're a great team to proxy. You've got some awesome kind of thematics to them. You've got 40mm bases, you've got 25s, really fun. Hybridtech Circle. Now, I'm a Necron lover, I'm a Xenos man myself, but actually, shockingly, I've not played as or against Hybridtech Circle, which is crazy. In the last edition, they were the team I played the most, I think, actually. That might not be true, but it feels true. At least when they released, I played a bunch of them until they got buffed, and then I stopped playing. So my view on them is a little bit skewed. So the Hybridtech Circle are a very interesting team. They're a team that have a little bit of list building to them, because you have your 3 Cryptechs, and the Cryptech that you take kind of changes how the team plays. Hybridtech Circle released Busted. Really, really strong. And I would argue, even though you know my distaste for elite teams and how overpowered they are right now, Hybridtech Circle were not now, but were, I would say, the least fun team to play against. I'm not someone that says you cannot have a team that is all about debuffs. I think that's okay. You can have a team that's about debuffs and not have it be effectively always a negative play experience. That's okay. But man, Hybridtech Circle, mad. So it used to be, no, let's not talk about how it used to be. Let's talk about how it is now. Sorry, I'm going to get off on a rant. Okay, so Hybridtech Circle at the moment have taken a pretty big hit. And I think, I hate to say it for the Hybridtech Circle lovers out there, I think they're where they should be. You now have to view your dying models and then reanimating as being, you get to do one more thing. They in essence, they gain a nerfed frenzy. It's an interesting team. You come back to life and then you're going to do one more thing, basically, because they now come back with very few hit points and you're going to be injured. And that's kind of it. That's all they get to do. There you go. That's a Hybridtech Circle. I would say, for me personally, the Hybridtech Circle, although I like Necrons, as you can see, I have a Necron army on like 2 shelves behind me there. My issue with Necrons, the Hybridtech Circle, is that it's all shooting. You don't have melee. And melee is really strong in this edition. There you go. Always has been, but particularly now. Maybe that's a good thing because, hey, as I'm about to say when we get to Goremongers, melee are having a real hard time into Marines. But there you go. I would say, if you're a beginner player, don't play the Psychomancer. Honestly, if you're playing against someone, turning off all their crits just sucks. Can you believe it used to be you couldn't get any crits? That is mad. That is the worst decision GW's ever made. Like, come on, guys. Can't crit. Now at least it just turns off alt crits, which is very strong. It used to be 6-inch, now it's 4-inch. There you go. Crazy. But the real nerf to the... Well, that nerf was needed. Mandatory. But the nerf that has really brought them down. So you can't just say, okay, they nerfed the Psychomancer, I'll play the Cryptek or whatever. Now it's a case of the reanimation protocol and the Psychomancer hit has left Hyrotech thoroughly in the mid tiers. Mandrakes. Oh. So I've played a bit of Mandrakes. I have to say, I think Mandrakes are really fun to play. They play, because of their movement, the ultimate movement shenanigans in the game, they play quite differently to every other team. But they're a real gotcha team. And if you're new to the game and you're playing Mandrakes for the first time, just know they can be wherever they want to be. There you go. You can't stop them. That's the team. There you go. So I would say that, if you're trying to get new players into the game, don't play Mandrakes into them. That wouldn't be fair. Or if you are, don't use their ploys and abilities. Right? Don't use their movement shenanigans. But then it's not Mandrakes. So Mandrakes ultimately are an elf team without the APL 3, which is interesting. There is one way to get APL 3 on the team, but you're probably only going to get it once in the game, probably, statistically. So that's fine. They focus on their movement shenanigans to move them around the board. They have very, very variable matchups into different teams. So elites, shockingly, have a really good matchup into Mandrakes. The reason for this is that Mandrakes want to get to the back of your board and sit there and score tac ops and ignore you with like one model, maybe two if they have to dedicate that much to it, and then mess around with you with all your other models. Elites are fast enough that they can run back and deal with the model, the Mandrake that the enemy puts back there. Which might sound odd because, of course, you might be thinking, but if I'm a Horde team, I can just keep models at the back. Awesome. You can, that's true, but a Mandrake can kill the models that you leave at the back. So actually, they don't care about it. And there is, on Volcus at least, always room to drop out of line of sight, out of valid target, because you have to be on a conceal. Easy. There is somewhere over 2 inches from your models. From turn 2 onwards, guaranteed. Turn 1 onwards, really. But with the elites, with their move dash, with their incredibly long charge ranges, normal charge range, with their move dash, they are, and then still attack, it becomes really, really challenging to use their teleport shenanigans to the fullest. And so they have a bad matchup. And then, of course, Mandrakes can't win against elites in melee, which is their thing. So there you go. Whereas they can absolutely shred a Horde team. We then go to the Novitiates. Novitiates are an odd one because they are, of course, a team that for a long time everybody said OP broken. Really, really strong. And I didn't see that for myself. I think, like you're going to hear me say with many teams, and again, this is personal bias and me looking at the win rates and saying, I think this is what's happening. But hey, maybe a better player will come along and say, actually, this is what's happening. And that's fine. Fuck them. I'm right, they're wrong. The problem with Novitiates is that at the end of the day, you are a 7 model team and elites kill you in 2 hits. Done. Done. There you go. Doesn't matter that they've got shenanigans. You still die in 2 hits. You can't stop that. Novitiates die. Cool. Okay. That comes up a lot because ultimately it's a melee team and their shenanigans are based around rerolls, heals, but you won't heal if you're alive, and stopping you from being shot, which only matters if you're not getting charged. Cool. I think that Novitiates are hard countered by AOD and Dueler being able to block 2, basically. As all Marine teams are. Elite melee teams are, sorry. Farstalker Kimban, shockingly a team I've played against a few times. So the Farstalker Kimban have a nice mixture of shenanigans, and that's it. They're not really, I don't know, I was going to say like just raw power, but they have no raw power. That's not how this team works. They are thoroughly a shenanigan-based team. I want to be clear on that. And then they have enough models that they can mess around with stuff. They've got some very fast dogs, which allow them to, again, play tac ops very interestingly. And they don't have, and they can, for a CP, this is, they can not have to control a point to tap it, which actually, when you won't have three objectives on the board, means that they're pretty darn good at crit op and tac op. That's how they're winning. They're playing a very strong objective game, and if you step out of line, they do have a few models that can absolutely punish you. But really, they're winning by objective play here. So, yeah, cool team. Cool team. We then get the Goremongers. So again, much like with the Sanctifiers, I really wouldn't trust them being in B tier here, the bottom of B tier. I wouldn't really say that's where they truly are. I think that's just because they haven't had many games. They could go up or down by 10% win rate, and it wouldn't shock me. Same for Sanctifiers. If that went down to 50% or up to 70%, I wouldn't be that shocked. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. So the Goremongers are an elite melee team. And they get buffs, additional APL, fight twice, healing, etc. when they kill the enemy. From what I've said about that before, what does that mean for this team? In my view, that means they are hard gate-kept out of the game by Angels of Death, the most numerous team in the game. Goremongers should never beat Angels of Death. There you go. All your guys have 4 dice. AOD have 5, and they can block 2. You cannot beat Angels of Death. That's it. Simple as. Yeah, there you go. It's an elite team, so even if they didn't manage to block 2 as one of their chapter tactics, you still aren't. There's just not that many blood tokens on the board for you to fill up your Gore tank with. Similar to Hand of the Archon, in that their pain token. I've seen Goremongers described as Hand of the Archon, but chaos flavored. I think that's pretty true. I think Goremongers are probably... No, they're not stronger. I was going to say they're stronger. No, Hand of the Archon are stronger. Hand of the Archon are stronger in win rate, in raw power than Goremongers. But I think the Goremongers probably have an easier play. Into most teams, they're easier, but if you're thinking about like potential win rate, I think Hand of the Archon have a higher potential win rate, but Goremongers are going to be played by the mid tables better than Hand of the Archon are going to be played by the mid tables, I would say. But again, hard gate kept out of winning, so it's fine. By the most numerous team in the game. We then get to the Exaction Squad. The Exaction Squad are all about they've got 2 shenanigans, 2 shenags on the go. They have shields, so they get to block you. They get to block 2, and they always fight first with their shields, and then they can shoot into that melee. So the way this team works is they charge, or you charge them. It's fine. You charge shield. Doesn't matter if you charge. The shield fights first. The shield fights first. Now, they're only 4 dice hitting on 4s, which means they can fluff, to be clear. But because they get to fight first, and they have a shield, so they block 2, it means what they're planning on doing is they hit with 2, they block 2 of yours. That should leave you with 1 dice. You can either block their second dice, or you can hit them. They take the hit, that's fine. And then they hit you and they deal 4 damage. Cool. The next thing they do is they move in with a shotgun and they kill you. That's it. This team plays quite well into anything except elites. There you go. What a surprise. Elites are in the way again. Who knew? The problem, of course, being that elites just have such a high wound profile. There's nothing you can do. You just take that. You just take that damage. There you go. Again, then get the Rattlings. I will say that well, no, I can see why the Rattlings are down here. I think again, if we were talking about a potential tier list, the tier list of potential, Rattlings would be higher. I think that they're an interesting and fun team that has a very simple play style. Actually, like conversely, for what they are, their actual play style when you're taking 3 Ogryns or Bullgryns, which you are doing, is kind of the same as what I just said for Exaction Squad, except they are not hard gate kept by AOD. That's how they get through this. So I'm actually surprised Rattlings are so low down. If we very quickly go and look at our old what's this, pick rate? Oh, you see Rattlings are actually up there at B tier, with Exaction being, where are they? C tier. Oh, interesting. I'm surprised, to be honest. I guess, hey, newer team, right? So the Rattlings have a nice simple game plan, and I genuinely think that once you have played them a handful of times, they're very effective. I never played them enough to become effective with them, to be clear, but even though after my second time I was like, oh, okay, I get how this team's supposed to play. Simply put, you charge your Ogrins up the board, and you stand in the middle, you allow the enemy to charge you, and then you shoot into melee. There you go, with your anti-tank rifle. And that's it. And then everybody else just kind of scarpers around, and that's it. There you go. The key, of course, being that your Ogrins are there just to tie up the enemy. Cool. I like it. Once you figure out where your Rattlings need to stand, and where they need to be positioned so that they can get those shots, and take advantage of enemies mispositioning, being out of position due to Ogrins kind of taunting them, I think you absolutely wreck face. Hearthkin Salvages, I have not played as or against them. I can't say too much. I know that when AOD, when Nemclaw, when Warp Coven, etc., when Legionary specifically, were up at the top of the tier lists, absolutely dominating everybody, Hearthkin were briefly hailed as the saviour of Kill Team, alongside Inquisition, and yeah, just Inquisition, as the guys that can deal with that much armour. So I assume that Hearthkin are actually pretty solid. A low win rate, probably aided by the fact that they aren't picked much. Let's have a look at their pick rate. Where they at? Oh, higher than Rattlings. Alright, fine. Don't know what I'm talking about. Either way, not one of the most popular teams out there, but they clearly have enough lead to throw down range, and I guess that works for them. I don't know much about the team, sorry. We then get to the Vespids. So the Vespids, for a long time, were the true F-tier team, but in this edition, they've bumped up to like a 42% win rate instead of a 26% win rate, so that's nice that they got a buff. They need another buff. Let me tell you what the Vespid team is. They're a very odd team. They kind of, I think they have a very low skill ceiling, but also quite a low skill floor. So the way they work is that you have Fly. Fly, in case you don't know, is just a teleport, right? No longer are you having to, no longer does it say you ignore vertical distance. It just says place the model. This means they can actually go like just straight through walls, which is really odd. But yeah, so you don't even have to measure that. Like you can end up inside a piece of terrain, no problem with the Vespids. That's how Fly works now. Probably an oversight, but hey, they're sucking and not winning, so nobody cares. They are super, super strong in theory, but it has not played out that way. Basically, all of their guns are 4 dice hitting on 4s, and you need crits to get your devastating through. They also are P1, or piercing 1, sorry, on all of their weapons, generally. So at the beginning of the game, they were hard countered by Legionary and Warp Coven, turning that off, which is mad. Now that's gone, luckily. So the Vespid, for a time, were genuinely hard countered by those elite teams. Now they're just hard countered by the fact that those elite teams have 14 wounds, and you are 4 dice hitting on 4s. That means statistically, you're doing 2 dice. Okay? You've got 4 dice, you're hitting on 4s. 2 of your dice hit. Nice. Hey, statistically, how many defense dice do you think Marines succeed on? 2. Okay, great. Lovely. So, what is your... So, every time you shoot a Marine with one of your guys, you deal just the devastating damage, which means every other shot so 5 times in the turn, you will deal 2 damage. If every model in your team shoots the same Marine for an entire turn, you will kill 1 Marine. There you go. Anyway, the buff that they received where the drone can now give them lethal 5 is amazing. That means that they are critting twice as much. Really good buff, but they need something else. The problem with Vespid is they have movement shenanigans thanks to fly, but they have no game shenanigans. They need more. There you go. They need some way to play, to set up. They need to be a playmaker, a player, if you will. They need a way to make plays. They do not have that. Presumably, communion points are going to be able to change that for them. Who knows? All right, Angels of Death. Oh, a team I know. Lovely. AOD. This is such a weird one because they're in C tier. They're the most popular team in the game, most played team, most picked team. They are in C tier. If you look at the vibes-based tier lists out there, AOD are in S tier. They're very, very strong, but their actual win rate is down in C tier. That's because they have a weird curve. They have an inverse bell curve. What would that be called? I don't know. There's probably a name. So the way AOD work is that when you're a new player, because they're just so strong on the data sheet, you can't beat them. Okay? I've seen it time and again through Reddit, Facebook posts, etc. People saying, hey guys, just got into the game. My friend's playing AOD. I'm playing whatever. Some not Marine team. I literally can't beat him. He's won every game. What do I do? It's like, you just have to get better at the game. Like, there's nothing you can do. AOD is a really good team. They're playing an S tier team into you, basically. And you're playing Kassakin, the worst team in the game, right? Like, sorry, don't know what to tell you, you know? Fine, it is what it is. So, the way AOD work is that you always take Dueler. Depending on how you want to play the team, you might take Marksman, you might take Hardy, you might take Aggressive. It's up to you. But you always take Dueler because it is functionally the best melee defense in the game. It allows a crit to discard 2 normals. You are 5 dice. You will turn on, your 5 dice hitting on 3s. You will turn on melee rerolls. So you are 5 dice with a reroll. This means you have an 80% chance, or like an 86% chance of getting 1 crit on your every melee you roll in. That means if the enemy doesn't have 5 dice when they attack you, you're going to beat them. You are going to parry them out and then kill them. The only thing you are not adding the and then kill them proviso to is other elites. In which case, you're surviving, hitting once, and then you can fight them back in your activation. You won't get the kill that turn, but you are not dying, which is the only team that can reliably say that. And then you hard counter so many teams. Goremongers, Hand of the Archon, Blades of Cain, like, they are all having such an uphill struggle into Dueler. Not Angels of Death, Dueler. There you go. Now that's my take. Not everybody agrees with me, but again, I'm right, they're wrong. So there you go. I don't hear them in this video saying anything else. So what can I say? What can I say? Angels of Death are ultimately a good team. I do like them. They just need a slight tweak. So yes, despite the fact that they are at a 43% win rate, I'm saying they need a nerf. It is what it is. This is where GW has a really interesting time trying to figure out, do we just touch things based purely on win rate? Or do we look at the wider scenarios? Who knows what they're going to do on that one. If they never get a nerf, I could imagine them being like, I can see why GW wouldn't do it, but I do think it's a very bad experience. And actually, I do think, if I may be cynical for a moment, that even though I have been harping on since AOD dropped that they are too strong for the beginner players, in my cynical moment, I will say that because the top tier players are now saying they're S+ tier, I think now they will get a nerf because the top players say, oh, we want a nerf on them. there you go. That's me being cynical. All right, we then get to the Blooded. I don't know much about the Blooded. There you go. I shan't comment on them. I do not know what's up with them. They're an interesting team. They are, of course, the Traitor Guard, but I've just never played as or against them. They have a way to auto-retain crits. That sounds pretty good, but it's in shooting, not melee, I think. I don't know. Pass. Not my vibe. Not my vibe. I know that they're one of those niche popular teams. So the people that like them, that's their team. That's what they're into. They don't really care about the other teams. They played Vet Guard until Blooded came, and then they came, if you know what I mean, guys. We then get to the Commandos. Orcs. Commandos, again, an interesting journey in this new edition. For a while, again, they were like F tier. Everybody said Commandos absolutely suck, which is a huge drop from where they used to be at the end of last edition, where they were S tier. Everybody was playing Commandos. Until now, where they're like, nobody's that interested. I suspect this might be partly because we have a new, more elite Orc team. People like elite teams, even top tier players who can see the value of a Horde team tend to prefer to pick an elite team unless there is such a big advantage in the Horde team. Because of course, an elite team in general is going to require less brain power, less mental fatigue over the course of a tournament. Commandos, there are, what are they, 11 models now? 11 models. Wrecker Crew, 8 models. Easy. Also, the Wrecker Crew, they do less, right? So with Commandos, every model's different. You have to have your Rocket Boy's not going to be meleeing, right? Your Slasher Boy's not going to be shooting. So you got to get it right. Wrecker? Nah, everyone can do everything, it's fine. There you go. Well, again, that was a touch of hyperbole there. Commandos, however, I will say, still have such great theme, and in a sense similar to Corsairs, if you get the right guy doing the right thing, they can deal with stuff. You know, they're not a bad team at all. I'm actually surprised that their win rate is as low as it is, I will say. We might say that it's a similar reason to kind of AOD. I suspect that a lot of not die-hard players are into Commandos, and so we get some poor win rates from them. How are they for pick rate at the moment? I think they're quite low. I can't find them. Where are they? Oh, okay, A tier. A tier. So below the Wreckers, but still actually quite high, which kind of tracks, I suppose. Kind of tracks, because that means that you're getting a lot of people playing them, and in general, a lot of people aren't very good at the game. High. Same, right? But that would be what's bringing their win rates down, most likely. If we looked at podiums, I imagine you'd have, statistically, a decent amount of podiums, because the people that are into it play them, but it means that the win rate is quite low. Navy Breachers. I don't know much about Navy Breachers. There you go. I've read their rules. I know hypothetically what they do. I've never liked their theme, and if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. No Games Workshop game is good enough to play the game. If we were just playing with checkers and like counters, blank counters on the board, right? We are all in these games for the cool models and the theme and the majesty of the event, the pageantry, and Navy Breachers don't do it for me. There you go. So I don't really know what they do. I do, I just don't care, to be clear. Yeah. Or more precisely, I know what they do, but I do not know why they do it so much worse now than they did last edition. I don't know what specific thing they changed there. We then get to D tier, we get the Scout Squad. Now, I'm actually quite shooketh that the Scouts are so low down. I want to see where they're played. Scout Squad. What are they doing? They're Marines, so maybe they're played quite high? No, not really. C tier. Okay. So the Scout Squad, I played against them a few times. I am actually quite surprised that the Scout Squad is this low down, keeping in mind that this is since the buff they've received. So this is just this quarter. They're pretty solid. They have so many plans within plans. They could be Eldar. They're kind of Marine Eldar in a sense. Like, yeah. And you get to set up the board to, encourage your opponent to go where you want them to go. And then you can place your guys where you have now forced your opponent to go. And then you know what you're going to do? You're going to APL 3-2 guys. So you can move double tap. And you know what your faction tactic is after they've set up in the scouting step? Shotguns that hit on 2s for 4 damage. There you go. That's your faction identity. It's outrageous. It's legit outrageous. Even into Marines, that's 8 damage. You're killing every Marine, apart from Justin, who can just scratch, in 2 shots. In 2 activations. Or sorry, in 2 actions. That's really good. Really good. Yeah. I think Scout Squad are a bit of a diamond in the rough. A gem. A hidden gem. I don't know why they're so low. There you go. Straight up. Don't know why. Deathcore. Again, a bit of an interesting one. They recently had a buff. Right now, Deathcore, when you're running into them, they're 14 models. Probably 13 actually. And what you're looking at is every model on the board is going to have Accurate 1 and is going to have Saturate and Ceaseless. So even though they're 4 dice hitting on 4s, they're actually remarkably accurate. Because guaranteed 1 hit, that's locked in with the Accurate 1. Ceaseless, that means they can reroll 1 of their dice. 1 of them hits, 1 of them misses. That's pretty damn good. That should be statistically 3 hits. And you don't get to ever get cover. That's not bad. That's not bad. I don't know. I don't know why they're so low on the win rate. Of course, the standout there is that we've recently had one of, I must assume, I haven't checked ITC, but who cares? One of these players has taken Deathcore, who people generally consider to be one of the worst teams in the game, and won a relatively large tournament with them, going into a lot of tough teams and a lot of tough opponents as well, and won with Deathcore in a 6-round tournament, which, you know, proved his mettle on that one. So very cool to see. Tempestus Aquilons. So this is a team where if you know and your team is capable of dealing with the one thing Tempestus Aquilons do, they can't do anything to you. There you go. Additionally, unfortunately, I think one of their big issues is they have their hot drop. They're strong when they drop, and then they're not strong. They are an alpha strike team, triply so by their ploys. So yes, turn 1, and then turn 2, you get to phase out the middle of the board, right? They can do that very effectively. But then you have continuing turn 1, 2, 3, and 4. Obviously, you play a ploy, which means that the first half of your team that is still alive gets balanced reroll. And of course, that means that you want to hit with your balanced rerolls. This means that you need to have opponents that are giving you shots within your first half number of activations. If they're not, you've wasted a CP and gained nothing. This means that you are a team that basically you can't play in the normal way of wasting activations, right? So you can't trade passes until the enemy moves something. You can't do that. You need to do something in your first few activations each turn. That's where you have your rerolls, because don't get me wrong, hitting on 3s is great. But as we've seen with Kassakin, you need more than just hitting on 3s. You get a balanced reroll. Awesome. Only for the first half of the team. And clearly, it's not working. There you go. Obviously, the game's not just about killing. You also need to think about how you score. And when it comes to their attack ops, they must be recon, I'm sure. As we've just discussed, it can't be all about killing, so you don't want to go confirm kill. So you've got to look at the other one. The other one that everyone takes, plant beacons. But of course, you can't plant a beacon on a turn you're set up. So that means your hot dropping can't be used to score attack ops. It can only be used to kill. But if an enemy knows that that's what your hot dropping does, they just won't give you a shot. There you go. Is what it is. And then, of course, because Marines now get to counteract incredibly effectively, they will hold off, wait for you to hot drop, and then if you give them that kill, they will kill you. Because you're only 8 wounds saving on 4s. I was like, whoops. Yeah. And that is another discussion to be had about elite teams and how strong counteract now is. Blah, blah, blah. Is what it is. Harnkin Jaegers. So a lot of people are saying Harnkin Jaegers need a buff. I have not played Harnkin Jaegers this edition, either as or against. That sounds wrong. I feel like I have played against them, but maybe I haven't. But I know that they weren't changed hugely from the last edition. So Harnkin Jaegers are a nice kind of like a mixed arms, combined arms team, but definitely stronger in shooting. They've got some really interesting shooting guys with their bombast and their mine guy, and their leader gets to resurrect on 1 health, etc, etc. But they seem to just not have the source, which is a real shame because they're kind of a bit of a shenanigans team because they're able to get 3 APL without telegraphing it. But clearly they don't quite have enough oomph to use that untelegraphed shenanigan play that they've thought up. I imagine that they actually play quite well to the TAC ops. I assume they would have recon. So yeah, I assume that they're actually relatively effective. So the fact that their win rate is so low actually confuses me a bit. I don't know why they're so low. There you go. Is what it is. Pathfinders. So I've got my Pathfinders right here next to me. So I recently did like a top 3 changes that Kill Team needs this week. And I just totally... It turns out I've been playing Marker Lights completely wrong. I thought that every time a model moved, they got rid of a Marker Light. So if you moved, dashed, and then in your counteract, moved again, they could potentially get rid of 3 Marker Lights a turn. Not the case. So everything I said about Pathfinders, incorrect in that video, which is... Love it. Love it. Although I did get a lot of people telling me I'm wrong. So I guess it was a win for me, but it doesn't emotionally feel like a win. With that said, Pathfinders are so close to that F tier. They clearly need something, but I can't even tell you what it is. Because when I was playing into Nemclaw, I was like, okay. Again, I've played them once, to be clear. I was like, man, my Marker Lights have done nothing. They've all been shaken off. I literally never got a shot on a Marker Lit model. But actually, even then, they were relatively effective. I must have rolled hot, I guess, because as I said with Vespers, 4 dice hitting on 4s is not a good profile. But that 4-5 damage, it makes them very swingy. If the opponent just fluffs, it just misses 2 of their defense dice, oh, I've taken 8 damage. What? That is suddenly super effective even into Marines. So I don't know. So I don't know what Pathfinders need. There you go. I don't know. I've got no clue. They should probably give their drones fly. Done. No idea what else. Moving on. Kassakin and Hunterclade are the only teams in F tier. These young lads and lasses are below a 30% win rate. And then if we look at their pick rate, Hunterclade is F tier. Kassakin are almost F tier. Now, I suspect that those pick rates, at least for the Kassakin, are heavily skewed by how poorly they are doing and how bad they feel to play. This is something I'll pick up on Kassakin, not Hunterclade specifically. So with Kassakin, I've played them once. You can see I did a battle report. They played against Nemclaw on Glass Half Dead, on the Chin Chan. And oh boy, they're boring to play, aren't they? Yeah, that's all I can say. Like, I'm not even going to talk about their power level. They were just boring to play. That's quite a shame. It feels like to give, if you don't know the history of Kassakin, they used to be 4 to hit, but they had something called elite points, which means kind of like wrecker points for the wrecker crew. They could push through very aggressively a crit and a hit that they needed. So you were kind of guaranteed that every shot they had would be a crit, 2 hits, minimum. So they were actually very good at pushing through damage. And they had quite a lot of armor piercing weapons. that was removed, and now they just hit on 3s. And similar to breaches, they can get a reroll within like 3 of a token or something. But you have to be within 3, and your enemy has to be within 3, something like that. That's kind of their thing. Yeah, I don't know. And then they got basically guardsman orders from the last edition. I can't even remember what the orders are. I assume they're +1 to move. Balanced? No. Saturate, can't remember. Either way, it's quite dull. Quite a dull play experience with Kasrkin, and I think that's a real shame. Because when I think of what Kill Team is, Kasrkin, in my opinion, should be the team. They are elite humans, they are your guys, they are, in my opinion, the true Kill Team until we eventually get Deathwatch, where they are the true Kill Team. But this is, in my opinion, the Kill Team. They have no melee, but that's fine because Kill Team is a game that is supposed to be about using the cover system and terrain correctly, and it should be dominated by shooting. The fact Kill Team as a game is not, and that it is incredibly heavily melee based, is a shame. But as such, I would actually like to see Kasrkin specifically, but probably all shooting buffed, to be honest with you. So yeah, Kasrkin, boring team, bit of a shame. And I would take their low pick rate purely because the team is boring to play and bad. I do think that Kasrkin, flavorfully wise, should be higher picked. Yeah, but at the moment, it's a damp squib, a limp dick, if you will. Nobody likes it. We then get to the Hunterclade, final team. I don't know too much about the Hunterclade. To the point that I'm actually really, really surprised that they are this low. Because when I look at the team, they've got some sauce. Like, they've had a buff. What's happened? I genuinely don't know. Hunterclade have some really, like, strong melee operatives that are then backed up by relatively decent shooting. I don't know why this team isn't much higher in the win rates. If we look at pick rates, they're very low, aren't they? Yeah, so very low pick rates. I guess they're just not played much. I don't know. Legit, I do not know why Hunterclade are not winning more. If you look at their Rust Stalkers, their Infiltrators, great profiles. I've got no idea. No idea what's up with Hunterclade. A team that should be higher. This is possibly the only team that I will say this for. I think Hunterclade should probably be up in C tier. To say that Hunterclade are worse than Vespid is crazy. The only thing I can imagine is that we have a combination of Hunterclade having a bad matchup specifically into elites, AOD, their what are they called? Infiltrators. Their melee, although very, very good into most teams, is not good into Dueler that can double parry you and then kill you because you are a weak melee. And then you don't have quite enough oomph with your shooting to do what you need to do. That is my actual guess with Hunterclade. I have to guess that they, because of their low pick rate, and the fact that they're not like a fancy, swashbuckly team with all the new gubbins, with their own kit, people just aren't into playing them for some reason. I don't know. Normally, I will say, oh, this team, you know, hey, I could play AOD, I could play Sanctifiers into your Kasrkin and you'd beat me, right? Like, me, a noob, into a pro player, I'm not going to be able to beat you with any team. I legit feel like Hunterclade are a team that I could pick and win. And I'm so confused why other people aren't doing that. There you go. Okay, cool. Right, well, whew. Allow me to embiggen myself. Oh, I'm feeling very engorged now, aren't I? Well, everybody, this has been a nice, chilled out hour and a half chat about tier list. I do hope that you have now, if you're a beginner, you've come away fully filled with knowledge of everything you need to know about every team and everything you need to know to get started in the kill team meta. And hopefully I said a few insightful things for you. If you are the chap I that just likes to hang around and get that snapshot of the meta, I think, you know, the tier list spoke for itself, and hopefully I touched upon a few things that has helped you to figure out why we are where we are and why those numbers are where we are. Cool. And if you're a pro player, you don't watch me, so thank you for that. And there you go. Hey, with that said, we're at the end of this marathon tier list, so if you've made it this far, I'd like to give you a big triple hello. Lovely. Hey, what is a triple hello? That, you don't even have to be subscribed for that one. That is a thank you for watching the whole video, because genuinely there is nothing you can do more effective for my helping, supporting me, than just watching the whole video. So thank you so much. If you do like what I do here, do consider checking out me on Patreon or any of the links I have down below in the pinned comment. There are various ways of affiliate links that will send a little kickback over to me. There's different equipment there from different people. There's travel boxes, there's objective markers, there's token caddies, there's some super cool acrylic tokens. There you go. And also, hey, if you're in the UK and buying some Warhammer, as I do very frequently, I have affiliate links with both Whaling Games and Element Games. If you use either of those, it costs you no extra, and I get a little kickback. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think about anything I said. That'd be awesome. Engagement for the engagement throne. That's not a marriage thing. That's like a YouTube algorithm thing. And thank you. Bye.